Okay, we're going to call this meeting to order. Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have roll call.
Okay. Chair Drumheller is not present. Ms. Webster?
I'm here.
Mr. Renzi is not present.
Can't hear you.
Can't hear you. Mr. Renzi is not present. Mr. Morrow is not present. Ms. White?
Here.
Mr. Holleran?
Here.
And Ms. Sheldon?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Announcements and agenda modifications? No? Cool. Okay. Has everybody reviewed the minutes from the last meeting?
Yes.
You want to make a motion?
I move that we accept the minutes from the last meeting from March 24th.
Second? Mr. Halloran, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, now we're going to public input. Now this public input is on anything that's not on the agenda, is that correct?
Yes.
Anything that's not on the agenda you want to talk about? Come on up.
Well,
So we need to have your name and address, please.
Brent Wallenberg, 13855 99th Street, Fellsmere. They're having another meeting on the natural resources. I'll show this now. But anyway, I'll read. This tube worm is by far the most amazing creature in the lagoon. Macroalgae is the most acidic algae in the lagoon. It drifts across the bottom like a big tumbleweed. This tube worm grabs the macroalgae and weaves the low pH macroalgae between the high pH shells so that the two are compressed together, forcing an acid-base chemical reaction. Shells are all attached to the tube upside down so they can cup and grab the sand, creating an anchor that cannot be pulled out. This chemical reaction created by this little worm is what made our lagoon the most productive ecosystem on the planet. Calcium carbonate is CaCO3, one atom of calcium, one atom of carbon, bound together with 3 atoms of oxygen. This worm creates his own food from the algae that grows on the calcium. He creates his own salt, calcium chloride salt. So in freshwater rain events, he has calcium chloride salt. This worm creates his own dissolved oxygen so that on hot summer days, millions of creatures have dissolved oxygen on. How cool is that? I read where they're releasing quahog clams into the lagoon. One quahog clam can produce 1 to 5 million babies, but you need to put the sand back on the shore where Henry Flagler removed it from, and them clams will show you what they can do. And there's probably 50 or maybe hundreds of varieties of clams. But like I say, this guy's prevalent. They're coming back where I put sand. Where I put sand, all the life comes back because they don't have no shells to make their. But you can see how he's grabbing the macroalgae and he's weaving it in. And this is just above ground right here. And all the shells, he puts the macroalgae in between, and so that it compresses and the high pH and low pH. And he also comes, seems like at the time when they need it the most in the hot summer when there's low oxygen. But that is why we used to have, like I say, we used to have more fish and water. And this little guy is a big part of it. And he's just quietly, I'm telling his story for him.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Oh, we got a question.
I have a question. So what do you see, are there a lot fewer of these, and why do you think?
Well, I got these from the other side. They built that, on the other side where they built that was calcium carbonate, and I was watching, you could see the clouds, and it comes back where they done that on the other shore, straight across. But the ones when there's not like enough sand, they took out billions of cubic yards to pave US 1, and it was, like I say, now the bottom's acidic. I can put, the whole equation of all this money they're spending on beach erosion. The acid needs to be neutralized before it goes out on the beach, because that's the same sand. And you can take sand from the beach and put it on the shore, but it needs to be on the shore. And this ties into the septic tanks. That's how I learned. I was in our lagoon house, and they're sending little kids home to tell their parents that the septic tank's killing the lagoon. And what I'm seeing is pee and poop comes in, and that dissolves and turns violently in shells, and that chemical reaction releasing dissolved oxygen speeds up the chemistry between the pee and poop, makes harmless calcium chloride salt. Our lagoon was self-cleaning. So it ties into septic tanks with a good calcium carbonate. You can use this to clean water. I mean, I've talked to a lady from South Africa, and she couldn't, it dawned on her that what I'm telling is the truth. Okay.
So, did you talk, who is it, St. John's? Who would be the person that kind of just shared?
I've been talking to people for 10 years, and it's no joke that our newspapers are totally beholden. They're not going to bite the hand that feeds them. I wish it wasn't that way, but I'm just telling it like it is.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, anybody on Zoom?
Nobody's raised their hand at this time.
Okay. Anybody else want to speak on something that's not on the agenda? Yes? Yes, so.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Damian Gilliams, 1623 US 1. Also have property 490 US Highway 1. At one of the previous meetings, we were talking about the park, but they said that that was not an item you should be discussing. It should be at a different venue. So I'm assuming Parks and Recreation would be the one that handles the docks
Oh, the docks.
and the Twin Pairs, the docks that the city bought from Good Guys Incorporated. And there's about 24 to 26 docks down there. Been down there for almost 40 years. And we're now going to take 30% of those docks and hand them over to law enforcement. When previously, they would never dredge that area for those docks. They would not maintain them. Actually, I almost had an accident because the boards were coming up. Things were not being maintained. But now, the city is going to go ahead and do a collaborative with Sheriff, Florida Department of Law Enforcement, all of them, about 6 of them, I think. Don't quote me on that. But there's 30,000 people in this town is growing. And they're taking away 24, 26 docks that were never maintained to give to law enforcement. Now, I don't know if you've been following the state, but Governor DeSantis is not happy about law enforcement boats pulling people over without probable cause. And that's a concern. But here's the thing. I understand that we need safety out there on the lagoon, the river, the inlet. We have an inlet. Vero Beach doesn't have an inlet. Malvern doesn't have an inlet. And I'm assuming the purpose of having all these law enforcement boats down there on our only docks for this small little community is to race out there and try to save people or stop people from boating and drinking. But, you know, there's a piece of property right there to the north of Indian River Drive that the county purchased, the old fish house. It's just boarded up closer to the inlet so that they can get on their boats and race out there and help save those overturned boats, because it is a dangerous inlet. Why are we investing all this money just for law enforcement to have their 6 docks when we should be thinking bigger and working with the county and doing an acquisition of that property down there? Or let the county foot the bill. Let them repair it. Let them get it up and make 6 docks, 6 slips available to law enforcement. And it's closer. It makes more sense. And leave the only minimum amount of dockage we have for our community. A lot of people would not use it because it was not maintained. But now it's going to be maintained. And I just think that it's kind of backwards. And I think that this board should get it back on a future agenda item and properly advertise it. I mean, if you really advertise some things in the right way, you'll get people to turn out. There is other property available down there that I'm handling on behalf of my clients right next door to those docks. Everything going to the south. There's numerous parcels that I'm representing. And the city has an opportunity to purchase that and make it bigger and better so that the community 20, 30, 40 years from now can say, wow, you know, we have a nice working waterfront, right? Only a certain amount of people can use it unless you're only a commercial fisherman. And I understand now, you know, they're going to knock down Hurricane Harbor eventually, and I'm not sure what they're going to put there, try to replace it. But they're going to also purchase the property next door for $3 million. And I'm not sure how that's going to fit into the plan for this community, for boating. We're a fishing village, we're a fishing town. And I think that as the town grows, you're going to need more boat ramps to get in. You're going to need more parking. And you need to have vision. You need to look ahead. When I came to this town, I was a commercial clammer 40 years ago. And I seen the growth. And I watched the development go on. And I been to a lot of these meetings over 40 years. And I tried to share my vision and my thoughts. Back then, I had parcels that I offered the city right where Mulligan's was one of my parcels. That could have tied very well with the yacht club. We could have put more boat ramps there. So as the town grows, docks for a fishing village is imperative. And it needs to start with parks and recreation. It really does. The vision, the plan. And Brian is great at getting grants. So, you know, he's got a great team. And he's really been doing an excellent job. So I just wanted to share that with you, and thank you again for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Right on.
Anybody else? On something not on the agenda, right? No. Okay, come on up.
Joseph Richter, 907 Blossom Drive, Sebastian. We're talking about the waterfront area, and along with what Mr. Gilliam said, we've rebuilt the docks at Yacht Club numerous times. Literally after every hurricane situation that we've had to go in there and spent just countless tons of money. And I've mentioned this to 2 different town managers in the past. Why are we not doing the same thing that FWC does and put floating docks in there that can be removed in advance of a storm? Literally, Public Works can go down there with hand tools and remove the things that hold them in place, use PVC rollers, roll them up into the parking lot, chain them to the flagpole, and after the storm, they just get rolled back into place, and we have our ramp back again. I know the last time we had a storm in October, we didn't have ramps back till like April or May. It's ridiculous. If we're going to call ourselves a fishing community or a boating community, having boat ramps is really paramount to what that is. That is a simple and inexpensive, and I want to reiterate, inexpensive to the town to have that. And we should have that now at Yacht Club anyway, because if you've ever been down there on a busy Saturday or Sunday when the weather's nice, you'll see people tying up to the pier that's next to that and climbing over the railings so that they can go to the parking lot, the Cavcorp property, and get their boat and trailer and then wait in line, which means a bigger backup. We could get floating docks. They could be put along the pier and they go up and down with the tide. They can be removed in a storm, and it will give people a place to tie up, because right now when they rebuilt that angle dock, 2 fair-sized boats can tie up there, and then you have the ADA dock. And then what you have happening is people will tie up in the ramp, so that now that people that are wanting to pull their boat out or launch their boat can't, because there's somebody there. And then they have to go walk over the parking lot, get their trailer, and come back and wait in a line to get out. This is something that would be inexpensive relative to making an actual improvement in our parks and recreation. Same thing with Main Street. The docks are super high. Old people like me, I'm 69 years old. That's a high dock to climb down on, especially this time of year when the river's low. It's really high. It's semi-dangerous, and the docks are short. When they did the revamping of the Main Street, they spent over $2 million. They put in a bathroom, they put in plantings, they changed the way the traffic flow is. They didn't dredge, and they didn't do anything to improve the ramp. When we do these things, and I understand we want to beautify the community, but why are we not actually asking people that the boating community, the fishing community that use it, hey, what do you think would work out here? I can tell you that people that use Main Street, it's shallow, they don't like it, so only people with small boats will use it. I've seen people actually get their boats stuck trying to get out. And it's another one of these things where there's almost no ability for people to tie up their boat to go get their truck, because if you have more than two, because there's only two short docks, that's the two people that are going to be able to go get their boats. So we really need to look at what FWC does on go out to Headwaters, go out to Stickmarsh, go out to Garcia, and look what they have. These are aluminum. There's companies that build these. It's relatively inexpensive, and the important thing for us is fiduciarily, it makes sense, because we're not going to be continuously replacing docks. These things come out for a storm and go back after the storm. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question? To them. Can I ask it to them? Have we, Brian and Richard, is there a boat group that maybe can give input for things like that? How do you go about when you're doing dock replacements and things?
Yeah, so we're required to put back what we can get approved by FDEP. So the height and stuff like that, a lot of those things are requirements of FDEP whenever we go to replace our docks. We are currently looking into the feasibility of a floating dock down on the lagoon area. The difference between going out to the Stick Marsh and all those is we're kind of an open lagoon area where we get a lot of east-northeast winds that will pick up the conditions in the lagoon. Sometimes we get a chop 2 foot or so. Not really conducive to floating docks. However, we are researching and having our consultants look into that, because we do have that idea for, at Yacht Club, we have kicked around the idea of expanding that dock all the way down the pier with a floating facility, a floating dock all the way down to increase the capacity in that area. So that's something we're already looking into. It really comes down to the engineering and the design. And right now there's a case study down in Martin County of a floating dock that similar situation to ours, that they spent a couple $1 million on, and it wasn't functionable because when the conditions pick up to a couple foot of a chop, the dock is moving that whole way with it. And depending on where so those are things that we're looking into. That's not discounted on the city staff. We know that there's a need there. We are looking actually into it. And if it's something that's determined from an engineering standpoint to be a functional option, then we'll be starting to produce grant applications and go for that. In regards to the Main Street, the dredging portion, that's currently under design right now. We have a grant that's in with the city that we've been awarded to do the design for the dredge of the whole Main Street boat ramp all the way out to the intercoastal area. And I think Richard's actually got a meeting tomorrow with that consultant to discuss what their design is. They provided us so far their design. We've got to get down into some specifics about how wide we want to go and how deep we want to go. So that'll all be working right now, concurrently with all the other projects that we have going on. But we realize there's a need. I know that the county has been, they're looking for additional boat ramps. got to remember, the city provides the only 2 boat ramps in the northern part of the county. The county provides none. There are no county boat ramps on the lagoon. They have some out in the lakes and areas such as that in the freshwater, but there are none in the lagoon. So that's really where we're concentrating our efforts on. It's not that, I know everybody sees the Riverview Park Master Plan and they think that's the only thing we're working on, but we do have other projects, and we are in considerations and looking at grant opportunities for floating docks and actively dredging. Right now, we are at Main Street.
With the population growing here, because it is growing and keep growing, we need to maybe look at, are we going to need more docks or more boat launch places? I know we don't have a lot of space, but I'm just wondering if that's something we need to maybe address and if, coming up, because our population is growing. And I haven't been down to the boat launch for quite a while, but I'm just wondering if that's a need right now or.
It is. I mean, I can tell you what was stated here tonight in regards to Yacht Club and the area of loading, unloading. That is a problem area there. And the city's aware of it, and we are looking. That's why I said we're discussing with engineering and stuff like that.
Good.
On our options to extend.
Good.
But in regards to what our requirements are when we replace the docks, I can tell you I've been here almost 6 years now, and the last 3 hurricanes, the boat ramps were open within a week or so. The last 3 that we've had come through here. Now, some of the major ones that came off the East Coast, yes, those are down, but then that's when permitting comes into place going through DEP and those elements. But that's where we currently are, and we do have the ADA dock that's on the south side of the boat ramp that was recently put in about 4 or 5 years ago.
And that's a floating dock, right?
It is not a floating.
No.
It's a hard structure, not a floating.
Okay.
It's lower to the water, but and when we get a higher tide, it does go underwater, but it was designed so that it's ADA accessible no matter what the water level is.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Is that it? Anybody else? Come on.
Good evening, board. Thank you guys for being here tonight. Good evening, staff. Thank you. I also want to comment on the docks. Born and raised here in Sebastian.
You want to tell her your name?
Oh, I'm sorry. Damian Gilliams, 490 US Highway 1.
Thank you.
Born and raised here. I spent a lot of time on those docks. And I also had an incident several years ago where I was getting off my boat, and the ladder actually almost fell off into the water, back into my boat, because the docks were in such disrepair. I have to give Brian a ton of credit, because the docks look like night and day compared to what they were just 2 years ago with caution tape, and they looked really bad. If you go back, I'm not sure if you guys are really familiar with the history of how we acquired those docks as a community. And originally, it was purchased to be a 64-slip marina. And as we continue to grow, that's still a location that would be an incredible space to have boats and people come to our community. And just like Vero has a city yacht club with a city docks and places for people to park their boats, mooring balls and stuff like that, something to consider. And if you go back and you look to see what the history was, it's what it was, purchased for, and they actually let the submerged land lease expire, and then they had to reapply for what we have now. So it's really great. The lights look great. People really love using the south dock for fishing. You'd be surprised, sometimes more than the north dock. And we're a fishing community. So I hope that you guys take some time to look into the history of what those docks, why we got them. And I agree with the boat ramps. We're a fishing community. I wish I can get out on the water often enough, and those are the docks that I use when I park my boat. So I'll be really disappointed when they put up a gate and we won't be able to walk out to the end of that dock anymore. And I understand that the law enforcement needs somewhere to go, but we have multiple other docks in the community that we can look towards repurposing or utilizing. There's just other solutions. Besides taking away slips from the community, we could be adding slips to the community. Addition, not take away. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, I don't see anybody. Nobody on Zoom?
No one has raised their hand.
Thank you. All right, let's go to unfinished business. Riverview Park planning.
Presentation to be put up there. I guess they want to look at me first. All right, there we go. So, thank you all. Thank you, Madam Chair. for having me here tonight. What we want to do is bring back to you all, at a previous meeting, you all had discussed the master plan for Riverview Park and provided a recommendation to City Council to approve what was at that time called Concept A. And that Concept A involved moving the Veterans Memorial over to along US 1 within Riverview Park. And can you all see my mouse on your screens? Or
Yes.
Okay. So the original concept was moving the Veterans Memorial over to US 1 area here underneath the oaks. We had a public meeting, public workshop a couple weeks ago, and overwhelmingly, we presented a new concept, which was Concept B, which is what's before you all tonight. Overwhelming support to not move the Veterans Memorial. The city, we listened, we heard them. So we're coming back to you all with this new concept that you all had not seen before. And what we're basically doing tonight is to have a general discussion on this concept, get your comments, your feedback on it from a Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee standpoint, and hopefully get a recommendation as we move forward to City Council in the future. So what we did was we presented this new concept at the public workshop, and in this new concept, you'll see a couple of things here, and I'll go over a few items that we have changed based on public input and added based on public input from the workshops that we were unfortunately not able to get created in this plan before it came to you all. But I will highlight every single one of those items for you. So I'm just going to go quickly over the entire plan. I know Richard, he had discussed at the previous workshop or presentation to Parks and Recreation, he discussed all of these elements. But for the sake of the community and the sake of everybody in attendance tonight, I'm going to go over all the changes and everything that's involved so that we're clear with everything that's included on this concept plan. All right, so I'll start right here. Veterans Memorial stays in the same place. What we have shown here is a delineation of the Veterans Memorial. The Four Chaplains Memorial is down here on the southern end of it. That's going to remain in place. The design of this, don't pay too much attention to it because we are going to involve the veterans community on the design of this so that as we continue to go forward, they'll be more heavily involved in it. So what you see here is just showcasing that it's staying there. Our plan is to increase shade in that location somehow, some way. We haven't gotten that far into it. So one thing I failed to mention, this is a conceptual plan. This is the very beginning. We then will go into more concrete construction plans as we begin to phase this project out. You all will see those again before it goes to council. So this is kind of just an overview of it. So Veterans Memorial here. This area here at the public workshop was created as a courtyard area that would allow for some food trucks to be involved in here. We heard from the public this may not be the best use of this space. So we are going to have kind of two discussions here whenever it gets to the city council level in regards to keeping this or developing it as a green space and the potential of adding some additional handicap parking here along this section on the western edge of that. Jumping down here to the Twin Piers area. So the volleyball courts, which are now located up by Sebastian Boulevard in this area, we're proposing to move them down in here. We get a lot of complaints from the volleyball community, and we've seen it a lot. Even with netting that's placed along here, balls are constantly going into Sebastian Boulevard. That is also a retention area. So the volleyball courts are located in a stormwater retention area. So this will bring them down along the riverfront area here and give them an active area that they can utilize. We add some additional on-street parking here, which will facilitate parking for the volleyball courts, parking for the docks, parking for the pier, as you see here. As has been mentioned a couple times, there are approximately 26 docks here for boaters. The end of the dock is currently under design right now to become our law enforcement dockage area. That has been discussed for the last couple years, and we're currently in the final design elements of that, which will then at that point have to go out to bid to start to get cost estimates for that. There'll be 4 lifts to boat those docks. It takes up a total of 6 slips away from the public, so there still will be approximately 20 left for the public to utilize on that area. We rearranged some of the sidewalk areas here, install a larger pavilion right here, which is something that is needed down here along the riverfront area. trying to come along here and create a focal point here for an area, maintaining our kayak launch. This is a floating dock kayak launch, kayak floating dock area here. This is one of the things that we're in discussions right now with the consultants and engineers. It's a very open water area here. It's not a cove experience where the wave action is controlled. Typically in a cove area, you get a lot of floating docks. That's because the winds are subdued based on just being surrounded by mangroves or different tree elements. This is strictly open water all the way across, all the way until you get, there may be some of the spoil islands that do a little bit of wave disruption, but we do see a lot. You can go down there now and you can see a lot of damage to the shoreline from wave action that we historically get from those northeast winds. So that's in discussion now whether this actually goes forward with the floating dock here for the kayaks. If not, it will remain a kayak launch area. I know that was brought up to make sure we ensure that that's salvaged. It will be, and it's going to stay there. There's going to be no changes to that. Then as you continue to kind of progress, everything along here on the riverfront area kind of all stays the same. Jumping back over here, in this proposal, you will see that we show Harrison Street closing down. It will close here at the entrance to the overflow parking lot, and traffic will be routed on a stabilized roadway, It's not going to be millings. It's not going to be coquina rock or anything like that. It will be a roadway that extends the road. Harrison Street will now come through here, through this area, and then back out to Indian River Drive. And it will be closed down here and here on this current proposal. This is something that will be discussed as we continue to progress along the way in regards to this plan, but that is the current proposal as we have it currently today. You'll see a few more on-street parking spaces here along Indian River Drive, once again trying to capture areas that people can park and easily access our walkways and the amenities along the riverfront. Here in this plan, we have the splash pad. So this whole plan derived out of the splash pad needing to be replaced. The replacement cost of its current location, which is right here by the Veterans Memorial, the replacement cost was in the range of around $1 million. I know one of the things that was brought up in the public workshop was that it would be cheaper to just leave it where it is and replace it there. The entire infrastructure of that splash pad has to be replaced. We had just recently, about 3 or 4 years ago, redid some of the drainage piping and everything that was underneath, but it was installed knowing that in the future it was going to be replaced. So it wasn't a really long-term 10-year solution. It was more along the lines of a solution to get us through until it was replaced. That was the only thing that was repaired there. We have done some replacement of the pumps, the motors, those elements. It's all showing its age. The splash pad is really showing its age, and it needs to be replaced as soon as possible. So the plan was to put the splash pad here, and then right next to it would be a interactive nature type playground, so that the kids could go back and forth. One of the things we heard at the last meeting was, well, they're going to take mud from one to the other. No, the case is this will be pour-in-place material that will go across both elements, and they will all be intertwined here. We will add a few more small pavilions in here that you don't see on the plan, based on discussions with our consultants following the public workshop. We'll also looking to add a large shade structure pavilion right here in this area, based on input we received. As you continue to go, this is once again one of our main stormwater retention areas here. Part of our grant application is to showcase kind of a rain garden situation where we have native landscaping that promotes the area of the stormwater area here. And also that's where you'll see we do have a boardwalk that we hope would become a little bit of a focal point that the community could go around and kind of get some ideas for possible use in their own yards, is what we would try to capture in this area. This is a permanent stage. This stage structure, I've requested that it move a little bit further this way so that the view would be completely through the stage to the lagoon. So that's one change we'll be looking to make. And then out front, you'll see these 3 pods here are dark green. Notice final decision's been made, but we are discussing as part of the whole kid area in this area, making this also artificial turf. And the reason for that is because for the bands and all those events, it would be an area where you could bring a chair, you could bring a blanket and just sit down on it and enjoy it. But then also a little bit of a play area in this park for the kids. Not only do we have playground and splash pad, but also an area for them to go run around a little bit, in the confines of the park. One thing I did fail to mention over here that we are looking at feasibility of a additional restroom facility. That was brought up in the public workshop as well. So we are looking at the feasibility of that, what the cost associated with that facility would be, what the benefits of that would be. Currently, we have a restroom facility here and a restroom facility located over here. The majority of times that we see overflow on these restrooms really are our large events. We have 5 large events a year. We also have numerous smaller events that at times could, overfill these restroom facilities. Currently, we do bring in portalettes for all those events. And like I said, they're usually for 2 to 3 day events that we have down in the park. Continuing to kind of capture the entire park in its natural setting. The way we're planning this, and the one thing we discussed with Kimley Horn, is to protect as many trees as possible. That is our plan. That is our goal with this project. And that is definitely a focal point of city staff as we continue to go forward on this. Once again, continuing to maintain all the vendor locations that we have throughout the park, adding an additional pavilion right here. One thing you don't see is we will do additional handicap parking in this location here, and also additional handicap parking on the north side as well. That's just not delineated in here because that gets into when we start looking at construction documents and everything. Out here on the front is a little bit of a focal point area that would have some elements involved with it that you would be able to recognize. It's Riverview Park from the US 1 intersection here, from 512 eastbound, and then obviously US 1 north and south. So we would have, looking at the potential of having that there. That's probably one of the lowest areas. We have some other premier areas that we have to ensure that we have the funding for. But that's pretty much the overlook of the entire project. Like I said, a couple things that have changed is the Veterans Memorial is staying where it is from the plan that you all saw before. This area here has changed because originally in the plan you saw had the playground here, the splash pad in this area. Those 2 elements are now located across the street. We're considering this just to be some pedestrian connectivity. This is a large park area where a lot of people there is parking here and here, but there also is now going to be a lot of stabilized parking in this area. So there will be a lot of people parking here going into the park on a daily basis. So that's really, our concept plan of what we're presenting to you all tonight for your consideration and discussion. The last thing I'll cover is funding for this. Kind of when we went into this, we knew that the splash pad was about $1 million project. For us to go out and retain funding just for a splash pad is pretty much non-existent. So we knew we had to involve multiple elements within the park to try to help assist with the funding of that large of a project. So with that, that's when we took on a larger project involved in this plan, and kind of looking at improvements to the park, things that were needed. We currently have a portable stage. We just a few years ago spent about $25,000 to redo all the hydraulic lines and everything, and that was once again one of those things to where we know in the future it's going to come up again. The stage it's worn, it's showing its age. It might not show it cosmetically because we do pressure clean it, maintain it, add new stickers to it, gloss it up a little bit. But the infrastructure on that stage, the hydraulics and those elements are starting to show their age. However, that's not to say we won't use it again in the future. Even when we have a permanent stage within the park, there may be times where we want to do a concert down here on the lawn, on the green, right on the riverfront area. So there'll be ways that we can utilize that. It just won't be something that we have to move back and forth as frequently as we do. So back to the funding concept. So we have applied, I think in my last count, we had applied for 4 to 6 grants that specifically pertain to this park. Our $3 million number was drafted based on our thoughts on what the cost would be, and also our application for a land and water conservation grant that was applied for about 18 months ago. We got awarded that grant in August, September timeframe of 2024. We have still yet to receive the paperwork on it though. So I do want to clarify that we still are waiting on the grant, the land and water conservation grant for $1.5 million. That grant required a $1.5 million match, which then enticed us to continue to look at other grant funding so that we can hopefully use some of those funds as the matching. And also we have allocated city funds under our discretionary sales tax, which is what we can use for infrastructure and projects. But we're hoping to have grant funding secured enough to cover a lot more than 1.5 million of it. And we have applied for different grants, one for the stage, grants for improvements along the riverfront, trails grants and different things that would assist us with this project. So that's really where we're looking at on this. I know it's a lot of information tonight, but there are only a few changes from the original concept you all approved. So with that, we'll open it up to the public and you all for questions and comments, and we'll go from there. Yes.
First.
Question, if we don't get all the grants at one time and we get the 1.5 million in that, are we in stages then? Like, if we accept this layout of this Plan B, but we don't have all the monies at one time, would we do parts of it and then do other parts as we get grants or more money?
Yeah, so we're going to have to do it in phases regardless, just because of the nature of the project. It'll have to be phased out. The land and water conservation grant funding, Richard, correct me if I'm wrong, is 3 years to expend it once we get the award. So we'll have 3 years to spend and that gives us ample time. Like I said, we've got another, I don't have the numbers right here in front of me, but I think we have another $600,000 in grant applications already out there for this project. And we have been awarded, I think, 2 other smaller ones for this project already for design and stuff like that. We got a fine grant for $100,000 for design. So we have been advancing those dollars.
So most of the grants, are they state grants or?
So land and water conservation is a federal grant that is run through the state though. So it does funnel from the federal down to the state. The remainder of them, I believe, are mostly state grants.
And are they matching or?
They have different matching mechanisms to them. Some are 50-50, some are, we have to match with 20% or 25%. There's different matching mechanisms there. And some allow you to use additional grant funding or sources to match. In kind can be a match type situations to where our staff may do some things. So it gets kind of murky a little bit whenever you start trying to determine the matching.
And that's why I'm wondering if we don't have, if we accept this plan and we go for it, then as we get monies, we'll address certain things first, then move into the next plans. But the splash pad, is that one of the main ones that would be first and then the playground, or what do you think?
I'll tell you, our plan in phase 1 would be pretty much the southern portion of the project to include the splash pad playground area. Would be phase 1 is what we're currently looking at. That can change. City Council can direct us to do something different. But that would capture, because some of the things we can't do certain elements until we move the splash pad. We can't remove a playground until we have another playground there. So some of those things are going to have to work collectively and together.
And is this parking lot paved, or what kind of surfacing is
So the roadway will be paved. The remainder of the parking lot, we're working to try to get something that is a little bit more pervious structure with the remainder of the parking lot. However, we also want to capture the ability to have additional boat trailer parking there. Right now, it's non-delineated down there, so you can park every which way, and so we want to make sure we delineate the ways to park. And that's why you'll see we want to increase the availability of boat trailer parking down there as well.
And is that what the green area is, boat parking?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yep.
Because they really get, I know at the last Easter or whatever event we had, the Earth Day, that I felt bad for the boaters because they just can't get enough parking north, where the parking lot is. People are using cars and they're trying to park trailers and.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you, we addressed that for this most recent event for Earth Day. We had city staff out there stopping cars from parking into boat trailer parking. That's a directive from City Council. We installed additional signage, additional pavement markings within the parking lot to try to prevent that from happening, and increase police patrol through that parking lot. And unfortunately, it requires us to write tickets at times.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions while I have this up here before I take you
I
off
have a
screen?
quick question. Is the splash pad, I'm sorry, is the splash pad going to be the same size, or it's not going to be smaller, is it?
No, it'll probably be approximately the same size. We'll go with a pour-in-place material. It won't be that concrete. There will be some different structures in there. We are looking at the possibility. I don't want to state what specifics because we haven't gotten into design yet, but it will be something that's much better than what's currently there.
Going to be covered?
Yes, so we'll work on the covering element and having those things in line with that as well.
Okay, thanks.
I had a question. I have two questions. One first about the playground. Do the parents in the community get an opportunity to weigh in on what's there? Is there like a survey that goes home or something that these working parents that aren't here get an opportunity to weigh in?
Yeah, no, great suggestion. So one of the things we're going to do with this plan, we promised the veterans we would involve them whenever it came to construction documents for the Veterans Memorial. We will do the same thing for the families in the community. Whether it involves, we'll have a couple public meetings to get some buy-in. We'll have some examples kind of for them to work from, but we'll have some examples that the public can provide input on which structures they prefer, which type of structure they prefer,
Cool.
And going down those elements.
Very cool. And then my second question was about the artist sculpture that's here.
Yes.
Now, is that somebody that you're looking to have a specific artist in town, or is that an opportunity for perhaps our arts elementary school to be a part of that process, Sebastian Elementary School of the Arts?
Yeah, so I think that's not a bad idea as well. I think it's really going to come down to when we get to construction phase, how we can utilize those resources and those efforts to do something that's unique and pretty cool for the city down there. Yes, absolutely. Yes, sir.
Yeah, comment. I did attend the public input meeting, and I want to thank you for including what were some of the topics that were raised, the Veterans Memorial, also the restroom, additional restrooms, and then keeping open Harrison Street. I know those were talked about during the meeting. What happens with the clock?
So the clock, we do show it potentially moving on this plan, moving it over to within the park to incorporate it within the formal park area. But that is not a set in stone definite move. That is something that's shown here. Once again, we met with consultants. We kind of showed them what we wanted, what we were kind of things we were looking for, and kind of gave them a little bit of freedom. That was one move they made. They felt like it would capture people inside the park better than it does in a parking lot. But there are also some measures with that there are some bricks that are there, some memorial bricks that are located around that. So I don't know that necessarily happens, that move happens because of that, but it is something that is shown in here that it is being moved. It may not be moved.
The bricks that I see on the Harrison area, is that part of the Brick Memorial program as well? Are you able to purchase those?
No, so that'll be more along the lines of what we show on our crosswalks throughout the city. And if you look on, it'll be kind of like stamped asphalt type situation. The thing we run into with the bricks is a little bit of a maintenance issue. And an area that large, tripping hazards and things like that will be a little bit too much to maintain for our maintenance.
I have the perfect piece of playground equipment when you're ready.
Perfect. We'll take all those when we get to that point.
Okay.
So if this plan is looking good, once we start getting into the nitty-gritty, we can look at where putting picnic tables, maybe some other structures around here, or are you?
Yeah, what we can do, once we get through this conceptual phase and we start to really hone in on some of the other the phases of work, I think probably what would be a good concept to do with this board, Parks and Rec, because this is what you're charged to do, is kind of have a roundtable exercise with you all open to the public in a meeting setting here, and allow you all to provide some input on those elements, and then that will be a recommendation that goes to council at that time. I just think it's probably too early to start to move little things right now.
Yeah.
But I think at that point, obviously if there's something you want to pinpoint now, then I'll take it, but it's still it's really a bubble plan is what it's showing right now. Thank you. All right, I'll take a seat and then.
Now opening it to the public?
Correct, you'll open it up to public input. I'm not going to answer back and forth with the public, I'll just be clear on that. But I can answer at the end any questions that may come up from the public. I'll be happy to address at that time.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Christy?
Hi, thanks for having us.
Thanks, Brian, for a lot of that information. I was at the last meeting, so we really do appreciate it.
You want to give them your name?
Veterans. Oh, I need to tell my name. Christy Lenz, 1097 George Street, Sebastian.
Thank you.
I did ask questions last time about the kayak launch. I'm happy that the kayak launch is going to stay, but my big question is, are we going to have vehicle access as we do today? Okay, because that's a big deal. So if you say yes, I'm good. Because that's one of them. That food truck area that was up there, I see that from US 1 coming into Harrison, you're going to still be able to get to the back of the plaza that has Italian Cousins, the ice cream shop, the sandwich shack, et cetera, correct? Did I understand that right?
So I don't want to
Oh,
get
I
into
know you said you
answering
didn't
back
want
and
to
forth,
ask.
but I will make notes of questions and I'll answer them. We'll get the screen put back up later and I'll address it then.
And then on the parking area where we have the new parking area, they're going to have the boat slips, parking areas. I don't know how many's there, but we need to really, like we've said before, we are a big fishing community, boating community, and we do not have enough parking for that. So as many, as everybody knows that has a boat, or if you've ever been down there, they're parked everywhere. They're up and down US, they're everywhere, so.
There's
more-
24 of the spots,
Yeah, 24 is,
but, I mean, I don't know if you can fit front and back, or is that just one
that's one.
spot? That might just be a drawing. Yeah, so,
Yeah, I just think we really need to hone in on that parking for, for a lot of the boats, because there is no place to park your trailer.
yep.
That's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next?
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Karen Wynn, and I live at 566 Benedictine Terrace, Sebastian.
Thank you.
This looks like a really exciting, well thought out plan, and it's great to hear all about it tonight. I have just a couple of items that I wanted to ask about. One of them, actually, all three of the points that I'm going to make are sort of environmentally oriented. And the first one is the opportunity to incorporate some low-impact development concepts in this. And the city of Cocoa Beach and the city of Cape Canaveral have really made some amazing strides in this regard. And what it would be, and it would be a really exciting place to do this because this is going to be a showcase area for the rest of the city. And all of the new pavement areas and some of the brickwork areas are excellent opportunities for this low-impact development concept. They look like bricks. I actually attended a low-impact development conference through Marine Resources Council with Karen Miller here at Stormwater with the city. She and I attended that, and so she's pretty familiar with that concept also. Ferguson is the company that did that in the other two cities, and they have great videos that show how it's beneficial, how it needs to be maintained, et cetera. So it's an excellent concept, especially with the close proximity of all of this to the Indian River Lagoon. It's pretty critical, actually. So it would be awesome if that could be a serious look be taken at that, because cost-wise, I don't think there's a whole lot of difference between paving and doing this, and it would make a huge difference. It's a permeable surface where all the water, the storm water, goes through these items and filters the water before it goes out to the lagoon. And it's really helping in those two other cities that are built right on the lagoon as well.
I'll wait till you're done.
Okay. And then the second idea, since this is a showcase piece of property in the city would be to possibly plant a native plant garden. And Orca did an amazing job on Saturday with their garden down on the lagoon front. They did an amazing job there. But it would also be nice maybe if one could be put in by the boardwalk as an additional, that's an area where water is naturally found, and they could be naturally watered in some cases. But if people can get a better idea of what that's all about, the more they'll be apt to incorporate that in their yards. And to the extent that they incorporate that in their yards, we're not using fertilizer, we're not using pesticides, we're using less water, and that goes into our drainage system, which of course all of that is going out to the lagoon. So if we can present another, maybe different presentation than what Orca's done there, that would be amazing to be able to do that. And then finally, I was happy to hear that most of the trees will try to be kept, and especially the oak trees. You know, oak trees are a keystone species, and what that means is that they support, I've heard, up to 500 additional species of animals, insects, plants, and you know, the oak trees that are in the park are probably 40 years old at least, and they support a lot of life on and beyond themselves. And the palm trees also support a lot of life as well. There are a lot of bird nests that are in there. And where I live in Sebastian Highlands, and the quarter-acre lot across from my house was just completely cleared out in the last 2 weeks. And that was the third quarter-acre lot on my street this year to be cleared out. So that's not only loss of habitat for the wildlife, but we've lost many, many 40-year-old oak trees through that process, which is tragic, actually. So to the extent that we can preserve as much of that as possible through this project, to the extent that any of them come out, perhaps we can replace them otherwise so we get to a net zero type of situation. Because really what's going on here, it's been going, you know, it's just all the growth is creeping up the coast now. This is all of this is directly impacting our temperatures that we're living in, which are the highest we've ever recorded history temperatures. And it's all directly related to removing the trees and paving everything over. So to the extent that we can do things right in this showcase property, it would be really, really fantastic. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Question. Have you sent the information to Parks about those bricks? And
I have not.
Okay, maybe that was something we might want to look at. The walkway going out to where the old volleyball court, is that a raised walkway? Because
I'll address it at the
Okay.
end, but real quick, I'll just answer the boardwalk question. Where the old volleyball courts is, that is a stormwater retention area that
Right.
will be native landscaping all the way through, and the boardwalk will weave through that.
But it's not a raised off the ground walkway?
Yes, it will be.
is.
It'll be
Okay.
raised, yes.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Damian Gilliams. I have property at the corner of US Highway 1 and Harris Street that they had showed up on your projector there. I've been there over 32 years. I had paid a premium price per square foot. Let the record reflect that I am a professional witness, that I can testify in court. I'm a broker, licensed broker, and I do property analysis. And the closing of Harrison Street is going to affect the value of my family's property. I'm not sure if you're familiar with traffic counts, but when you buy premium property, it's all about the traffic count, how many cars go past that property. We are commercial property. We are a hotel restaurant zone type business. We're licensed by the state of Florida. As a matter of fact, we have a food truck that we've been trying to operate properly for the past 2 years. We're now in court with the city. The city's defending that at tune of $25,000 our food truck. Just let the record reflect that. But yet they want to bring food trucks up the street, okay, to compete with my tax money. Bringing the out-of-towners to sell product when you have people here that provide jobs to the community and pay sales tax every month, and it's just ludicrous. It's not right. We were at the public hearing. I want to thank Brian for making that happen because we were not happy about the proper notice. And under the United States Constitution and under Florida statutes, you're required to give proper notice so that everybody has fair and equitable right to share their views. And at that public meeting, there was a lot of upset businesses. Italian Cousins, Pets, and there's a bunch of them down there that have not been properly noticed, properly to be brought into a meeting and discuss how these changes that they're making are going to affect our livelihoods. So who did that plan? Well, I found out. I asked the gentleman who did it at the last presentation. He's a landscape artist, not an engineer. When you do a multi-million-dollar site plan, you bring in your engineers first and you start laying it out properly. We were very instrumental in getting that monument put right back where it belongs. We're going to be very adamant about that. We took an offense effect and went to the VFW, American Legion, all of them. Gave them free copies of this plan and said, they got to be out of their mind. How could you move something so monumental to this community? By shutting down that road, there are people that can't even get out of their vehicle, but they would like to drive down Harrison Street, make a right, look at that beautiful monument and say, stop for a minute, and then move on. They're directing traffic from Harrison Street, a major road, from off of US Highway 1, through a parking lot. Where does that make sense from an engineering traffic study point of view? You're directing traffic into a parking lot. That tells me you're going to have more accidents, people getting in and out of their vehicles, and the traffic is going to be coming off major highway, US Highway 1, down Harrison Street, and you're going to direct it into a parking lot. It does not make any sense. What needs to be done are studies. You need to do an economic study on how you're going to affect the businesses. You need to do a traffic study before you even start doing these plans. You know, we were very adamant about the splash pond being $1 million to be spent on, and now they're going to move it across the street. Why don't we move the splash pond where the whole community can enjoy it and have parking towards it? You're going to have a band shell, and you're going to have music playing. Where do you think those kids are going to be yelling and screaming? Right next to it's not making any sense. So property access rights are very important. Florida recognizes the common law right and reasonable access to property. And you're denying proper access from the north and the south of Indian River Drive down Harrison Street to my property. And by the way, if you want to take our property, take it properly. Pay us for it. Think about this as your investment. You're entitled to come over. We'll sell you the property. I'm handling RPACs right now. If you want to purchase it, I'm your guy. I'm the broker. And then you could do a big site plan. Inverse condemnation is what you're doing. I'm not sure if you heard that term before, but it's taking property rights without proper payment, and it's wrong. Yeah, there's ADA violations, American with Disability Act violations. This thing needs to be stopped and really looked over and get all the players involved, not just 2 meetings that they had with, they sent out some flyers that, and I went to that meeting, and the stuff that I heard at that meeting, I'm not seeing transmitted into these documents. I'm just not seeing it. So traffic studies, economic impact studies, a lot of things need to be done for everybody involved. And if you want to take somebody's property, pay for it. Don't do it this way. We don't need more vendors taking our beautiful park properties and turning them into commercial real estate properties so that people can come in out of town, take the money with them. They probably don't even show their tax certificate, take the money with them out of town. How does that help us? They're taking a beautiful park that's been used and bought with recreation grant money from the state. There's a big sign that states there that that park is for recreation, not for business. And I understand the nonprofits want to use it, and we're okay with it as businesses. Let the nonprofits use it. But they shut the road down. I watched the cars come down Harrison Street. They see the thing where it's temporarily closed. What do you think they do? They turn around, U-turn it, because they don't know that they can make a right into a parking lot. They do a U-turn right there. It's a catastrophe waiting to happen. I see it every day because there's nobody who spends more time in that park than Damian Gilliams, because I live there. For 40 years I've been there. 40 years, every day, from 7 in the morning till 1 o'clock at night. I watched emergency vehicles try to get into that bathroom the other night. 2 fire trucks, 2 police vehicles. It was crazy. Now, if that road was closed, that's an emergency problem. You know, that you can't, you're going to be directing traffic.
Madam Chair, his
US
5
one.
minutes have been up for about 3 minutes now,
Oh,
so.
okay.
Well, thank you for not interrupting me. That's very polite of you, Mrs. Chairman.
Thank you.
City council run their meetings differently.
Well,
It's nice that there's not a lot of people that want to speak, and I have a lot to say because I have a vested interest here.
yes, I
And
understand.
if you're going to invest money in our park, do it with bathrooms, because we don't want to get the potty potties smelling up the street when I go get my French fries. Really. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
And thank you for your service.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Good evening again. Damian Gilliams, Jr. Like I said, I'm born and raised in Sebastian. I spent my entire life at 490 US Highway 1, enjoying the park. Razor scooters, running around the park, splash pond, slides, younger brother and sister, we all played in that park. I don't think I've ever seen an accident for kids walking across the street to where we need to close that street down. We just had a big event this weekend for Earth Day and Arbor Day. I sat there and I watched, and there were kids playing at the splash pond, there were families walking back and forth. I don't believe we had any issues this weekend. We had a lot of people there. I'm going to try and move quickly here because I have a lot of stuff that I want to bring up. I thought your idea for bringing the elementary school in for the sculpture was a really great idea. When I was in high school, Sebastian River High School, we did the big turtles. I don't know if you see those turtles all around town. I'm still trying to find which one has my name on it. I remember painting it, but I haven't figured out which business got it yet. We have a lot of people that come to our business, and we've been telling everybody about what's going on here at the park. We get a lot of feedback, and I'd like to share some of that feedback with you guys. They're all really excited for the amphitheater. We're a music community. On a normal Sunday, you can see it. You drive down Indian River Drive. Everybody here wants to hear the music and be outside. So I beg of you for 2 things for the amphitheater. Bring in a professional audio engineer so we make it sound really good, that this is a facility that bands want to play at, that people want to hear it from. And one of the biggest things that I had people come up to me and say is disability access, ability for you to get to the stage easier, you know, maybe a hard pad. If we're going to do a turf, maybe we can have a hard pad as well, or maybe some of the turf is a stronger material for wheelchair access and people that have crutches. I'm glad we're not moving the Veterans Memorial. I know people that their bricks are there, and I know people that would like to have their bricks there in the future. I'm going to beg that you guys take another approach to closing down Harrison Street. It impacts our business drastically. It impacts the dry cleaners business drastically. It impacts the businesses in the plaza next door to us drastically. And we are all of the businesses in that corner there. And if all of us are against closing that street, I certainly hope that you guys would take that into consideration and really think strongly about what you're doing to our businesses. If you're going to move the splash pond across the street, I'm kind of with moving it into the center of the city, like Barber Street, like way away from the river. I'm kind of with my dad as far as I'd like to come listen to the bands. I don't know if having the splash pond with all the water and everything running at the same time really makes sense. And there's a lot of kids in the community. I used to ride my bike all the time to Barber Street. You know, riding my bike all the way down to Indian River Drive from the middle of the city is kind of a farther distance. So if you're going to move it across the street, you might want to consider moving it even farther. The porta potties, this is the second plan. I know Brian said they're going to start looking at bathrooms and stuff like that. I think that's a really good idea. If you look at stadiums, you look at larger event venues, there are plenty of solutions for how we can structure our bathrooms. And as a guy, I don't mind waiting in line, 5 or 6 people in front of me to use the bathroom, but I really don't want to use the porta potties on event days. I'm not a fan of that, kind of a germaphobe, and I kind of really makes me cringe when I watch the vendors go to use them, and then we're all using this kind of little fountain, little porta potty corral. It's going to be 100 degrees this summer. It's not really my idea of a party. Yeah, I think it's a really exciting project. I think there's a lot of stuff that can really be done here. And another great idea was if we're going to bring stuff in for the children, we have a lot of people in this community that I would say are 50 and up, people that like to exercise, people that like to walk down along the river, maybe some exercise equipment. It doesn't have to be, dumbbells or anything, but pull-up bars and a playground for the adults maybe, so we can get some of these guys in shape, It's a active elderly community, right? Let's see, what else do I have on my list here? That's about it. Please don't close our street. A lot of our customers come from that direction. I personally drive that direction. I'm glad that at least, they're considering paving, because before the plan said just gravel, and I know that I wouldn't want to drive my vehicle through gravel every day to get to work. So I am always available at 490 US Highway 1. You can call me at 772-713-1983. I've been looking at these plans for weeks now, and I would love to contribute, and I'll be at every meeting that we can be at. I hope we have more meetings like this so that more people can come. I tried to get the word out myself, but not a lot of people here tonight. We just had this big, beautiful event at the park this weekend. Did we tell all of those people that we had this meeting tonight? I don't know if we did. And I would have liked if we had done that. I don't think we want people to know about it. That's the impression that I get from our leaders, because I kind of feel like they're trying to push it through, and we're going to be the ones, and the dry cleaners are going to be the ones, and the plaza are going to be the ones where our income is going to be impacted, and our property values that we worked so hard to have. I know I'm over time.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much, really, for having this meeting, and please, please reconsider closing our street.
Thank you. Thanks. Anybody else? That's it? What? Oh, Zoom.
No one has raised their hand.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I could just answer a couple of the questions that were asked. In regards to the food truck plaza access, that road will, as it's currently shown, will run to the west of that area. And like I said, we are currently in discussions with the consultant to provide a secondary option that could potentially add some parking spaces off of that road there. But there will be access through the backside in the parking lot, and then there will be access to continue to be access to the plaza that is located back there with Sandwich Shack, Italian Cousins, and different businesses in there as well. That'll remain.
Yeah, they seem to benefit from the parking out here.
Correct. I mean, there's additional parking for them. I mean, yes,
Yeah.
it's a little bit of a walk, but it will be additional stabilized, delineated parking. In regards to the low impact concepts in this, we'll revisit that element within this. And then the boardwalk question, where the boardwalk is, we had planned to have native plantings there to showcase that. That was part of the whole boardwalk idea, was people could walk through there. It'll be elevated because it is a stormwater retention area, so it will be elevated up and walk through and see all the native plantings there. There'll be also native plantings throughout the park that will be added with this project as well. Any other questions from the committee?
I don't think so. I would like to say that we're here every month. And I don't know if we're advertised, but we're here every month. And if somebody has something they want to talk about, they're welcome to come here. Every month. Was it like the third? No, it's the fourth Monday, 6 o'clock. All right. So we want to talk about Main Street boat ramp?
Can I get, however you all feel to vote tonight?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just either a recommendation or changes or whatever you'd like to see. with this to City Council.
It's two-way, so yes. Joanne's asking if fire trucks can get through the road.
Yeah, I mean, that'll be a requirement,
south parking.
from when the design, that it'll all have to go through the fire department, make sure they approve of the routing. All of that'll have to go through them. Yes. So we would not constructurally design something that does not work. We have to meet the same requirements that every developer has to meet, when it comes to changes such as this.
And this area, for me, this area where the splash pad used to be, could you put a bunch of handicap parking there? It seems like a good spot for it.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to how close we want to get to the Veterans Memorial with parking in that area.
Well,
And I think
wouldn't
kind of
So
more
for
likely.
me, it's right behind it, so it would make it easier for handicapped people to get to that memorial.
Yeah, I mean, our thought process is to line that whole area there with handicap parking, but I don't know that it would be a lot. We may have a different opinion of what a lot means, but when I'm thinking lining it there, you probably get 5 or 6 additional handicap spots.
That's something. Okay.
What about here? Handicap.
That's on the other side of the road. Anybody have any recommendations or questions? I like it mostly. I think if anybody's going to, the Harrison open or close is not going to be a decision that we're going to make. That's going to be, I think, further up than us.
We need a motion, I think.
You need a motion? Can I make it? I'll make a motion to move forward with this plan as it is, pending whatever comes down the road. Is that okay?
And then a second.
I need a second. Mr. Halloran. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No. Done. Can we move on to Main Street boat ramp now?
So as Mr. Benton said earlier tonight, we're well on our way with the design of the Main Street boat ramp
Thank you, Brian.
dredging. We have to have design and permitting by September 16th. So, once we get the preliminary design, we'll show you guys and then eventually get to council. We do have several grants in the hopper to do the actual work. Right now, all we have is grant money to do the design. The law enforcement dry line, keep in mind that is the fire suppression system that we don't have at Twin Piers. That's what this is. And we'll issue a contract at the May 28th council meeting. We just replaced the dry line at Working Waterfront. This is a little bit more expensive because it's longer and it's a brand new system. The one we did at Working Waterfront was a replacement. And then Swing and Bench Park, we're waiting on to see if we can get permits from St. John's to do the shoreline stabilization. We asked for an exemption and we were denied that, so now we're in for full permit. Yes, ma'am.
For the dry line, for the enforcement, is the city paying that? Do we get any grants or any kind of funding to help with that cost?
That's totally paid through a grant.
Through a
from
grant.
FIND.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on?
Sheriff's Department going to pay rent on the,
That's above my pay grade. Any other questions on projects? Okay.
all right. We have committee member updates.
Easy Street Park, water's low because we haven't had rain, and the park is doing well. We have some new babies there, That's all I heard all last week, so I'm excited about that for the ducks. But I did go through the garden park today because I hadn't been there, so I made a point of going. And I know there's sprinklers in that park, but we've got a whole row of bushes that are really, they're starting to dry up.
Okay.
And I'm afraid we're going to lose them if we don't get some water on them
I'll
like
go look at that tomorrow.
soon. And I don't know how your irrigation system works there, but I would address it real quick.
Yeah, right now we're watering twice a day.
Yeah, it's,
So,
maybe it's
maybe
a
we
lot it seems like the bushes along the walkway going in, the
Okay.
little ones. And the parking lot, that spread of, what is that?
That is road we'll put millings on top of it.
Okay, thank
to take the-
goodness, because it was
There
like
won't be dusty anymore.
yeah, it was like a dust storm pulling in there. I thought, oh my goodness.
When they do Barber Street paving in the next few weeks, we'll take those millings.
And that'll get a covering. Will the walkway also going into the new section?
That's what is on the walkway, yes.
It'll get a covering too.
Yeah.
The park is great. If people haven't been to the garden park,
It's nice.
go there, and the landscaping, the volunteers, whoever planned that did a really nice job. So I'm excited about having people go and check it out because it's really good.
My park looks wonderful. Schumann is doing well.
Excellent.
Bryant Street still has those palm frond piles that just need to be picked up. And George Street is looking very good. Thank you.
I think Hardy Park looked good too when I went by. And I haven't been to the baseball field because I've been at softball at O'Galley and beyond. So, upcoming events.
We have National Day of Prayer Thursday. There will be a ceremony here in the courtyard at noon, I believe. And then there's a rental at Riverview Park from 1 to 8 p.m. There's the dedication of the 250-year monument Saturday at Riverview Park at the Veterans Memorial at 2 p.m. And then Saturday night, there's Stargaze, which is, in conjunction with the Treasure Coast Astronomical Society. They bring their several high-powered telescopes out, and you can see some amazing stuff through those.
That's
And
a
at
great
7
event.
o'clock. Pardon?
That was great. That was very kind of them to share that equipment with the kids.
Then we have concert in the park on May 9th, Craft Club May 10th, and then Memorial Day celebration. I believe the starting time will be 11 a.m. at the Veterans Memorial.
I also want, if public is listening, the stargazing, if you haven't done that before, it's really a lot of fun, and that the club that's putting it on has all their telescopes set up, and they're very helpful, and they'll tell you what you're looking at. It's really a neat event. The other thing too, I think we need to talk is for all the amount of rockets that are going up all the time, and in our neighborhood we can see them, but a real draw is going to the river and being out on those docks. Because when you're on the docks and the rockets are going up, you are getting good views, and on the river it's beautiful. And I'd like to just share that. But people wanting to get to really see the rockets going down by the waterfront and getting on the docks for the launches are really a plus. We're lucky to have those.
Okay, new business.
So we're asking to change the July 28th meeting date to July 22nd because we want to bring our our capital improvement plan program to you first, and we take it to council later on that week. So that's we're requesting that we change the July date from the 28th to the 22nd, July 22nd.
Okay.
And we'll need a motion and
Oh, okay. We need a motion.
We move that we do the July meeting for Parks and Rec on July 26th.
Second.
22nd.
22nd, sorry.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Hi.
There's no opposed. Okay, recreation calendar.
Friday at noon, we have our, starting up our nutrition workshops again. They were quite successful, and we took a couple of month hiatus, so we start again on Friday. Then Star Party Saturday. Saturday morning, we begin our I-9 youth sports at Barber Street. For those of you that aren't familiar with I-9, we'll be doing baseball first, but it's a less competitive. Really, the design is just to get the kids involved in team sports and get them used to playing with, on a team or playing against others.
It's just on
I-9's
Saturdays, right?
Just
It's not on
Saturdays.
it's not a weeknight commitment, it's just that one day a week.
Just one day.
Yeah.
It's a 2-hour commitment. You practice for the first hour and play games the second hour. And then in the fall, at some point we'll do soccer, and there is really no soccer in Sebastian, so that'll be interesting. And then we'll have flag football at some point as well.
Sebastian Soccer's gone?
I'm not aware of them.
Wow, okay. It used to be really big.
Junior clay court tennis. I've spoken to the director, and they've got a few kids signed up. Again, this is a tennis tournament for 12 and under, boys and girls, 12 and under, and they very few clay opportunities. But if they're going to move, on in their tennis careers, they're going to have to play on clay at some point. So this will be an opportunity for some kids to get some tournament experience on clay, and that'll be coming up May 16th.
Richard, I thought I saw there was another pickle clinic as well.
There was.
Right. Oh,
Yeah.
has it already passed?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah. And we'll take some time off and then start them back up. The youth clinic was 2 or 3 kids. The adult clinic was sold out.
Wow.
I think if
That's all I
that
have.
youth clinic was advertised in the schools, I feel like that would be a really
I think we did it
wonderful
we
thing.
do pretty much everything in an electronic backpack. So
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it was, but it may
Heard.
not have been.
Yeah.
I'll double check. And that's all we have for programs.
Awesome. All right, so anybody have anything for the next agenda? And the next meeting is going to be May 19th.
And that's because of Memorial Day. Moving it up.
Okay. All right, we're going to adjourn this meeting.
Thank you all.
Oh, I don't like that.